Good evening. So we are live again on Facebook, and I'm glad to be here today with one of a very close friend, and I've been associated with him since a very long time. I hope everyone who's viewing us is safe and locked down, and hopefully, I think we will be very, soon be getting rid of the lockdown if things go in more positive direction. In this scenario, we have more positive news today to talk about, and I would like to share that today Mr. Puneet Batra is with us live at 7 Speak Facebook channel. Puneet is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, which is approved by federal government of Canada. Uh, Puneet, without wasting any more time, I'd like you to say hello to our viewers and welcome to our show.
Thank you, Shailey, for having me on the show. And I think you've taken a good initiative to educate people during this COVID-19 time. Thank you for having me on the show once again.
You're most welcome. This show is about 7.in, that's our brand. And our main endeavor is to ensure that parents get correct information regarding education. Essentially, we help parents to get correct information from other parents and from other stakeholders, including study abroad counselors and people like you who are doing well in their own domain. Uh, we encourage parents to write reviews on schools and other places of study, including the study abroad counselors. So, Puneet, please tell something more about yourself. What do you exactly do with regards to student or education in Canada? Something related to that.
To elaborate on what I do, basically, as you initially introduced me as a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, I am representing MICS Immigration. So this company is established in Canada and has one branch in India in Gurgaon, DLF Phase 4. So we are representing clients for immigration, and student visa and student counseling is a very important portfolio that we have. So we basically connect student with the universities, get good programs for them, and we get connected with people like you, and get connected to people, and then we arrange for study visa for students in Canada, and then we also provide initial services, some sort of help to the students who reach there without any connection there. So we help students there as well for some time.
I'm sure in days to come and many months to come and years, we will have more correct information from your side regarding Canadian
Absolutely.
universities. Uh,
Absolutely.
so during these unprecedented times, the scenario is not really very positive in almost all countries. What is the scenario of study abroad program for Indian aspiring students for Canadian universities, if you can tell that?
See, as we all know, the whole country is under lockdown, so is the Western world. So, primarily, things are kind of on hold to some extent, in the terms that visa not being applied on paper. So, if somebody wants to still apply for next intake, people should apply online. And people who already have secured visa, I mean, study visa, I'm talking about students, so they can continue to study from outside Canada as well. And for those who are seeking for visa, there are different processes now. Like for IELTS, now there is a different kind of IELTS exam which can be given online, and that's how people can still apply for visa, but they would be taken comparatively slower, at a slower pace than they used to be earlier. So it's a different scene, but still people can definitely offer Canadian education as students are still being accepted in universities.
which is a positive note. And I really like and appreciate the fact that IELTS is being conducted online, and the scores can be, utilized for the admission purposes. So, having said that, I still remember there are other formalities which are required for any student who is aspiring to be in, Canadian university. For example, biometrics. How is that done during lockdown time?
See, normal for any visa, the biometric time is usually 30 days. But as we all know, the biometric collection centers are closed during this COVID lockdown. So people are given extra time. Now they have 90 days to submit their biometrics. And it's not all. Let's say if somebody has any problem and still not able to give biometrics even in 90 days, so they can use web form and they can communicate with the IRCC stating the reason why.
I think this is very important information. Not many people I know who know this information. So thank you for the updated information. So let's talk about the intake sessions. How does this happen in Canadian University? I've heard that there are two acceptance. There are two programs which happens during the year. The first one happens in early September, and the next session also begins in January. Can you give some more information on that?
Yeah, as you rightly said, there are two major sessions, and if I can pinpoint, fall is the major one. It happens in September. So mostly applications are started in January, and usually by March they are closed. And
Okay.
sometimes they are carried over to May. But due to this COVID-19, some universities are still accepting applications up to June. And Jan session is a winter session, and there's another session which is a summer session, usually happens in the month of May. So there are different deadlines, and they vary according to the universities.
All right. So this is so during such as I said, unprecedented times. How does the session happens? Are there online studies which are happening, or the students are still traveling, or would it be, or would the university be allowing students to have students there? I mean, in September, how does how is this going to happen?
I'm glad that you asked this question because a lot of aspiring students have these kind of questions in mind. So let us understand there are two scenarios. One is people have already acquired visa for the May intake and they're
Okay.
not able to travel. So those
Okay.
students, they can do their classes online, as most of the universities have provisions to conduct classes online, so they can do that. So once that this lockdown and travel restrictions are over, so they can travel to Canada if they wish. But as far as this online classes are concerned, prior to this lockdown, these online classes were never accepted by the
Okay.
IRCC for a student to take the classes online. But now they have changed the system and it is accepted. And as long as the program, the classes, online classes are up to 50% of the total program, the student is good. And there is a little worry for students who are doing short-term courses, let's say for 1 year, and for any reason this lockdown is extended for over 6 months, then I would suggest that such students should take deferrals to the next intake. That will be safer for them. For rest of the students, it's okay.
I think in both scenarios, it is a win-win situation for students because if the university is allowing the online session, and students can basically utilize this semester, by taking the online session, and then maybe when things are a little better, more positive, students can maybe travel to Canada then and join the physical program in Canadian universities.
If
Whatever
Shall, if I
situation.
may also add, I'm sorry, I forgot one point. Regarding the travel restrictions, there are many restrictions. So if a student, wants to travel to Canada still, there'll be a lot of restrictions that one would be checked at the airport. And if there is even a slightest of the symptom, the student will be quarantined for next 14 days, and or the student can be sent back. So I would suggest students not to take chances, And this quarantine could be on your own expense as well if the government is not satisfied. So better play safe and do not travel if it is not very essential.
All right. So essentially, it is on their own expenses. The parents must ensure that if they are sending students in early September, and if there is, God forbid, if there is any such symptoms, they should be prepared to, to a quarantine. I mean, a self quarantine of 14 days, and the
Yeah.
expenses should be borne, of course, by the
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
parents only,
Quarantine is mandatory.
which
Yeah.
is valid. So.
Absolutely.
Are these online classes, I mean, do they have equal weightage? What will be the impact on post program work permits? Do the online sessions would be regarded as same as the physical classes?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, prior to this COVID-19, this was not to be, but government has made recent changes, and now they are allowing online classes to be considered as official classes, and this will have absolutely no impact on post-graduation work permit, and people can continue to do their classes online from outside Canada. There is absolutely no problem, and I think that's a way to go in these present times.
Uh, just one question which I thought is very pertinent. Although I know you are in India right now and you may not have a regular update, or maybe through your sources, if you can tell us how is the situation in Canada and the universities. Uh, is it a little better? Like we have green, red, and orange zones which have been declared by the government here. Are there situations under control in Canada, or they are as bad as US? I should not say this, but yes, things have been a little out of control in United States. How is the situation in Canada?
Shailey, this is a very valid question considering that Canada is next door to America and situation out there is really bad. But in comparison, Canada is doing really well, and there is no lockdown like India. And if I may say, Western society to some extent is a little more civilized. No offense meant to any society for that matter. There is no lockdown, but people, take care of social distancing, and situation is not as bad. The hardest hit province is Quebec and Toronto a little bit, but they're on the path of recovery, and the curve is, settling down. So I think there is no reason to worry, especially for students who are going, later in the session.
Yeah, I equally feel so, because I was speaking to another a study abroad counselor yesterday, and there have been some students, who've been admitted in many universities, and they have similar questions: should they travel? Should they be traveling or not? The parents have these valid questions, and as of now, university has given a green signal that yes, the program will start on time in mid-August, or maybe a week later, whenever the date of a particular university is. And I'm sure this should also happen with Canada. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Puneet, my next question is, although you've answered it, I just, if there any specific advisory or precautions which has been issued by the authorities, is it the same as you said, a 14-day quarantine, or anything in specific? If it is any, please tell our viewers, parents, I'm sure would like to know this.
The only thing I want to add is one of the good things about Canada is students can work while they are studying. So when there are
Okay.
no jobs, people are locked down, so there'll be no jobs. So people who are banking to take care of their finances by jobs, so they will not get any jobs. So as I mentioned earlier, if it is not essential, do not travel. Wait for the time when situation is under control, and don't put extra burden on your pocket by being self quarantined, maybe in a hotel or something. Then you're paying extra bucks for nothing.
Correct. Correct. So, what about students who are already there? Some Indian students, I'm sure, who are already there, and they are in the middle of the program, or or are about to complete programs. They're the current graduation or post graduation. So, what will happen to their visa in such scenarios? Can you give us some information on that as well?
Yeah, see, students are there in different conditions. There are many who are already enrolled in academic sessions, so they
Okay.
are taking classes online,
All
and
right.
people who are not able to do jobs, so they are home. There are other government benefits to the students which students can avail,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question? Yeah,
I
I'm
was
sorry. I got it. I got it.
idea of visa, if
Students
there is.
can get their visas extended if
Okay.
the situation permit. And for
Okay.
some reason, if they cannot extend their visa, like post graduation work permit is one thing which is issued only once in a lifetime after the student has completed education. So they
Okay.
should think of changing their visa to work permit
All
because
right.
it cannot be issued. If there is no option, then I would suggest them to change their status to visitor so that at least they can stay in country on a official status.
All right. I'm glad this will help students as the visa will be extended. Um, just one last question, if you can give something more positive news to students and parents who are actually looking for the admission in the Canadian universities. What is your advice to them? Anything which is more positive. I'm sure there are parents who are financially and emotionally prepared to send their kids abroad for study for their better better life ahead, better career ahead. Of course, right now due to this COVID-19 spread, this is not a very healthy scenario, but I'm sure every cloud has a silver lining, and there should be some positive thing which the government is doing to ensure that the students should continue to come from India. So please tell us something positive about the situation.
See, I would like to give this answer in two parts. One is for the students who aspire to go to Canada as international students. So, people should bear in mind that what Canadian education will eventually give them. This will give them a pathway to Canadian residency and citizenship. That's one thing. And
Okay.
people and students who are already there in Canada, there are several government programs. Students who have lost their job during these difficult times, so government
Okay.
is helping them with $2,000 every month. And students, especially who are in some special industries, essential like food, energy, utility, and some other medical. So they are allowed to work for more than 20 hours. Usually, a
Okay.
student is allowed to work only 20 hours a week. So now they can work 40 hours. Along with that, people or students who have lost jobs due to this COVID-19,
Okay.
so they can relax. They will get aid from the government. There are a few conditions which just I want to outline. There are very few conditions which are that the student should be 15 years or older, should
Okay.
have a SIN number, must have
Okay.
stopped working due to COVID-19, and should have a income of $5,000 in 2019 or in the
Okay.
last 12 months before filing the application,
Okay.
or currently unemployed for the last 14 days. So if any student fulfills this requirement, is entitled to get $2,000 from the government. I think that's a good news. I mean, people need not worry about their finances. So parents can relax. So they'll not have a hard time while they are in India and their children are in Canada.
Without taking much time, I first of all want to thank you for taking us, through this and taking out your, a few minutes from your valuable and busy schedule right now. Uh, I In the ticker we have already mentioned www.7.in, the contact form. Any viewers who are seeing this video right now and who will be seeing this later at a later stage, if you have any questions regarding study abroad program for Canadian universities, you can get in touch with us. Our job is to provide the correct and authenticated information to the parents so that the asymmetry of the information, this gap is filled. I would urge and request parents who have school-going kids to use this portal 7.in, www.7.in, as a medium to write reviews so that the correct information is passed on to schools, and the valuable decision of schooling is taken as an informed choice uh, by the parents by reading reviews of the another fellow parents. We also have a section which is coming up very shortly for study abroad counselors, and I'm sure Puneet, we will be happy to host you there, your profile, and I hope you continue to do good work. And very soon, I think we will have you again on the show after a few weeks so that we have more updated information about the Canadian University and other relevant details regarding that.
Once again, I would like to thank you for having me on the show, and we'll continue to work together. And I hope people are benefited through such endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You be safe on the lockdown. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.